Good evening, everyone. I'm Allison Camerata. Welcome to CNN Tonight. We continue with our breaking news. CNN exclusively obtaining the audio recording of Donald Trump discussing highly classified documents at his golf club with people who did not have security clearances. You're about to hear Trump, in his own words, explain that he no longer had the power to declassify the documents, and you'll hear him shuffling through papers. This conversation is a critical piece of evidence in Special Counsel Jack Smith's indictment of Donald Trump over his mishandling of classified information. We've got CNN's top legal, political, and intelligence analysts here tonight. But let's start with CNN senior legal affairs correspondent Paula Reed and former federal prosecutor Laura Coates. Ladies, great to see you. Paula, I'll begin with you. Let's get straight to that exclusive audio tape. What do we hear Donald Trump saying?
All right, so remember, this is back in the summer of 2021 at his New Jersey golf club, and in the room along with him are two of his aides who he knows are recording everything he says, because during that time he was in the habit of having his staff record him anytime he talked to journalists, members of the media, or anyone working on a book. The other people in the room are two people working on an autobiography of former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. And at the time, it appears that the former president is quite agitated about comments made by General Mark Milley regarding Trump's feelings, his desire to attack Iran. I'm going to let him take it from here. We can hear him in his own words what he had to say about that.
These are bad, sick people.
That was your coup, against you.
Well, it started right at the
like when
beginning.
Milley's talking about, we're going to try to. No, they were trying to do that before you even were sworn in. That's right. Trying to overthrow your election.
Well, with Milley, let me see that. I'll show you an example. He said that I wanted to attack Iran. Isn't it amazing? I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came up. Look. This was him. They presented me this. This is off the record, but they presented me this. This was him. This was the Defense Department and him. We looked at him. This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. All sorts of stuff. Pages long. Look. Wait a minute. Let's see here.
Yeah.
I just found, isn't that amazing? This totally wins my case, Except it is like highly confidential, secret. There's secret information. Look at this. You attack, and
Hillary would print that out all the time.
she'd send
Private email.
she'd send it to Anthony Weiner, the pervert. By the way, isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
I was just saying, because we were talking about it. And he said, he wanted to attack Iran and what? These are the papers. This was done by the military, given to me. I think we can probably, right?
We'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to try to
Declassify.
figure out a.
See, as president, I could have declassified.
Yeah.
Now I can't, but this is
Yeah,
classified.
now we have a problem.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It's so cool. I mean, it's so, we heard it, and you probably almost didn't believe me, but now you believe me.
No, I believe
It's
you.
incredible, right?
No,
Hey, bring some Cokes in, please.
Really remarkable there, the casual nature of that conversation where he's clearly claiming to be discussing some of the nation's most sensitive secrets. Now, in a statement tonight, the former president's spokesman said that this, in part, clarifies that the former president did nothing wrong.
Okay. Laura, I want to get your take on that. You hear the former president say, quote, these are the papers. He calls them, quote, highly confidential, secret information. So here's a question for you. Does Special Counsel Jack Smith need to prove that they really were what Trump was claiming they were?
Well, special counsel and the team is probably salivating a little bit at the fact that this audio tape, when you look at the written transcript, is so much more rich in this instance. It gives you the full context. It shows maybe the motivation in part, the idea of wanting to show off and somehow in his mind prove, it seems from the statements, you didn't believe me at first, now I bet you do. It's probably part of a greater contextual discussion about the reasons why he wanted to retain and ultimately reveal certain documents. But it does fatally undermine the claims that he's made in the past, including at a Fox town hall and other times, talking about the idea of these weren't actually paperwork assigned or associated with the Department of Defense. These were newspapers or magazine clippings. That negates that very wholeheartedly. But of course, if you're a special counsel, You're well aware of this audio, and you know that every person in that room with whom he was speaking, the voices you heard, the people who actually had the tapes, they are now all witnesses to this and can be called in front of a grand jury if they haven't already been, Allison, or they can actually testify about what specifically he was in fact holding. It gives greater color to the overarching claims, but remember, the bulk of these claims in this indictment relate to the conspiracy, the idea of obstruction as well. And so now this paints a clearer picture, but the conduct that is indicted happens primarily, according to the indictment, in South Florida.
Okay, so Paula, who are those other voices that we hear?
So we know Trump staffers, Liz Harrington, one of his spokespeople, and then also Margot Martin. Now, Margot Martin is a longtime aide, and that's significant because when she went into the grand jury, they played this recording for her, and that was actually how Trump's lawyers back in March of this year found out that this recording existed at all. Prior to that, they were unaware of this key piece of evidence, and also emphasize that there are multiple versions of this recording because the staffers were not the only ones recording. The autobiographers were also rolling on this meeting, so they had notes. Now, it's unclear exactly how the special counsel obtained the recording that was played in the grand jury, but it's notable, March, that's when Trump's lawyers learned about this incriminating piece of evidence.
So Laura, as you know, Donald Trump has claimed that he could declassify whatever he wanted, but on this tape, we hear him admitting he had not declassified those and cannot declassify them now that he's out of office. Is that a problem?
Yes, and the plot also thickens on that very notion. I mean, this idea that he was able to declassify with the waving of the wand was always legally ridiculous. And remember, this complaint, this actual criminal indictment, deals with the willful retention of documents that should have been returned as well. The Presidential Records Act does not play the most prominent role in these conversations, but the notion of classified material or defense-related information, as is defined in the Espionage Act, is center stage here. And so the knowledge that he does not have the power to declassify what is in front of him, the nature of the conversation surrounding General Milley, and of course the documents and the substance of it, also give further credence to the claims that these were documents that falls under the category of defense-related information, which remember means things that would be close to the vest of the United States, that would be something that our allies would not want to have out, or those who wish to do us harm would love to have. And so think about all of that context of the evergreen nature of the material. We're not creating new defense plans and war plans every day, and they're mostly things that have already been decided, and of course they'll be renewed in some form or fashion. These are very sensitive materials, and so he's fatally undermined his own defense. I'll be curious to see what his lawyers ultimately articulate in the court of law. This will be the motion practice, Allison, we're all looking for. The pretrial motions, what comes in, what is excluded, and why.
Okay, thank you very much for explaining all of that to us, Laura and Paula.